Lost generation, coming to you in my natural state. Been working all day. Don't even bother getting cleaned up. You know, our goal is to be genuine. I figured I would drop another story time on you. Everyone loves a good story. People love entertainment. And this one actually has a moral lesson as well. And I like telling the stories to you folks. So, you know, I don't condone, recommend, encourage, or glorify drug use. Absolutely not. Don't do drugs. I beg you, especially if you're young, keep your nose away from the dope. Anyways, this is going to be one of the stories I will tell about a drug experience. And the experience took place when I was 14 or 15 years old with a substance known as Salvia Divinorum. It is a psychedelic substance, causes a short duration trip, for lack of better words. And I had tried this substance previously in its unconcentrated form and had no results. And of course, being 14 or 15, thinking I knew it all, thinking I was indestructible, and that I hadn't had results before, I got my hands on a concentrated version. Now, interestingly, when I was that age, this substance was not, strictly speaking, illegal. You could get it in the mail. The only problem is it comes from one area in Mexico, so you had to go through some pretty shady channels to get it. But I got the concentrated version finally, and I decided that I was going to give it a whirl. So I made the rash decision of getting a 5-foot bong and loading the bowl up in this 5-foot bong with the extract. So 1/4 gram of extract. What a mistake I made. But there was a lesson to be learned from my experience that I foolishly didn't heed, and I will relay that lesson to you. So I ripped this bong, I cashed the entire bowl drawing this bong, and then I cleared it, and I tried to ghost everything that I took in. And boy, was it effective. It was very, very effective. At first, for about 20 seconds, I didn't really feel anything, and I kind of started to write it off. And then there was a hint, and that hint turned into a dominating stranglehold on my reality. And it was like, it's like it took a bunch of meat hooks and just locked into my frame of reality and took control. And I was just along for the ride. So the first effect I got was a loss of motor control, and I nearly fell through a sliding glass door. Luckily, I was relatively close to it, so I fell against the door and I started sliding down to a seated position. During that time, I had dropped the bong, which tipped over, and luckily, it was an acrylic cheap bong, so it didn't shatter or break or anything like that. My first effect was being paralyzed against this door and watching every leaf on every tree morph into a low-resolution face and start laughing at me. Definitely a foreboding occasion. So all these leaves were laughing at me, and it's like your stereotypical maniacal evil laugh. And at the time, I was wearing a hoodie with nothing on underneath, and there was a lot of embroidery on the hoodie. There was a lot of stitching on the hoodie. That was another mistake that I made. So as I tried to will myself through this experience and get into the house, I was able to crawl in on my hands and knees. Once I did so, I noticed a sensation all over my body. And what I found out this was later was the stitching in the hoodie brushing against my skin. Except for my tactile senses were so heightened that this feeling of the stitching touching my skin turned into pain. And since the pain was going around my arms and parts of my torso, That pain made me believe that my arms were starting to be severed or torn off. And I had to remind myself that I was having a psychedelic experience and it wasn't real. And I ended up finding out that my arms weren't getting torn off, but I couldn't will myself through the pain either. So I stripped the hoodie off and I climbed into a bed and I laid there, and I had to ride it out. And the substance actually took me on a ride in one of the most literal senses ever. From there, I turned into an all-terrain vehicle or four-wheel drive vehicle that was navigating a jungle road. And this road was so bumpy that I was being thrown back and forth, or so I thought. I wasn't literally being heaved back and forth, but in my mind, I was the first person point of view of this vehicle. So it was like my body was taking this ride as if it was a vehicle. It's hard to explain, but I was being heaved back and forth down this bumpy jungle road, and all along the road was the edge of the jungle full of low resolution beasts that I couldn't even really make out or discern what type of beasts they were, but they were definitely evil entities, and the only thing that was keeping them back was the clearing the road made. And I'm speeding down this road, and it was heaving me back and forth. And that experience basically just lasted for about 15 minutes, the jungle road, and then it all started wearing off. Thank God. I'm so glad it wasn't a substance that had like an 18-hour duration or something crazy like that. But what are the lessons I should have learned as a 14 or 15-year-old man who was already doing hard drugs, who was already addicted to opiates at that time, and who was already starting to live the fast life? What are the lessons I should have took away? I messed with this substance. It totally whooped me. And the jungle road, when I was speeding down, being heaved back and forth, I now know was the path I was taking in life, where I thought I was going to live fast and, take my lumps, and I didn't care whether I lived or I died or if I learned all my lessons the hard way. And all those beasts on the edge of the woods were all the various forces that I would encounter that tried to claim my soul and lead me astray, lead me off course into the dark jungle. And luckily, in real life, I was able to make it to the end of the path as well. But at that time, I didn't see the symbolism there. I just was like, wow, that was a not so fun trip. But that was my experience with Salvia Divinorum, one of these substances I tried throughout my illustrious career of hell. So I thought I'd relay that to you, and perhaps you can see the symbolism and maybe take a lesson away from my bad experience. Lost. We're out.